one of the things that I have been noticing recently, particularly with maybe it's in the Christo manosphere, the Christian manosphere. As I said before, I was putting out these videos of this guy, and I can't remember the dude's name now. I'm just blanking on it. But the guy who was the Christian guy talking about, somebody sent me a whole bunch of these videos or links to these videos, and so I subbed to his channel. He's only got like maybe 4,000 subs. But I liked what the guy was saying. But I think one of the main difficulties that he and guys who sort of like are of his sort of religious stripe have with women is there's almost this idea that there should be some implicit like appreciation for what it is that they do. Like, well, I'm a quality guy. And I think this is something that's sort of endemic to say incels, but most men who are sort of in that 80 percentile, like the beta, I don't say beta males, but like the average men, tend to think that they should be appreciated for not being like other guys. And I wrote about this in my first book, and I've never done a dedicated podcast about appreciation, but there's actually a chapter in my first book called Appreciation. And I think it was one of the more contentious ones. It's a very short chapter, but I felt it was necessary to include in the first book because I think too many guys expect to be appreciated for things that they'll end up simply being taken for granted for. So you take care of your family, right? Well, you're supposed to, right? You are faithful to your wife. Well, what do you want? A cookie? You're supposed to be faithful to your wife, right? And I don't think that like when I've done the what is it, the female delusion calculator with guys, whenever I've done those female delusion calculator episodes on like say Access Vegas, I can pretty much guarantee one or two women will get to me afterwards and go, you know what, that was a real good exercise because I didn't know how rare an animal my husband or my boyfriend was until I went and actually ran his stats through there and to see like what kind of how rare he actually is. And the reason I threw that out, the reason I'm even bringing this up at this point is because it's going to buy my house. No, Donovan already got his own. Yeah, no, a little bit too late, Alex. I saw that. No, he's not going to buy my because he's already in his new house. He's in Damani Ranch too, I think. From what I could see from the surrounding areas, I know where he is. He's I'm like too far north. I'm way too far north for him. But no, I one of the reasons I'm bringing up the appreciation thing is because it dovetails into mate switching versus dual mating strategy. And primarily those ideas come from this lack of understanding of what women have when it comes to the guy that they happen to be with. Now, I'm going to read you where is it? There it is. I'm going to read you part of an email I just received this morning, as a matter of fact. I'm not going to say her name because I didn't get permission to say her name, but I'm just going to read what she sent me here. Okay. She says, I know about the concept of hypergamy, and I agree. It's totally true. But I don't like this biological part of us women. And I would appreciate some tips on how to deal with it. It's quite exhausting sometimes to be thinking about, one, what man I could have gotten. Now, this is a woman who is 20. How old is she? Oh, there you go. Okay. I am 26. Okay. Recently married with, from a conservative nature, or is from a conservative nature. For work, okay, I won't say what she works. My husband introduced me to your content. I'd say he's red pill most of the time, but there are certainly some occasions where I catch myself doubting him. I don't like that part of myself, and I was wondering if it's because of him or because I need to learn how to become a better wife. I would appreciate a video for women. Well, here you go, baby. Where you give them good advice in how to be a better version of themselves. Okay. Although I'm not going to get into that. I actually have a post that's actually called An Essay for Women. Maybe I should just link that to you. But this is what she said she was dealing with. God damn it. Okay. Mike just texted me during the middle of a show. again. So we have to stop the show. Hang on. I'm in the middle of my show. Call you after. There you go, Mike. You're now part of the show. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. Anyways. Why? Like, I do it at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern every Sunday. I don't change. I've never changed. I've never changed my schedule. How come people can't understand? Aaron can. I expect Aaron will be the next because he does the same thing. He hits me up right in the middle of the show. Okay, here we go. What man could I have gotten? So these are her questions. Why is she obsessive about it? If he is the right choice, doubting him because of some silly reasons, and then asking what is wrong with me because I don't like to think that way of my husband. He is a very good husband. I'm sure he is. Okay. The female mind is quite complicated. Actually, no, it's actually pretty easy to understand. Like, you know, what's funny is like, I think we have this misconception that men are in some way stupidly simple and women are like these mind-boggling, Chinese Rubik's Cube puzzles that everybody has to figure out. No, we're both pretty easy to understand if you just take the fucking time to learn human nature. It's not that difficult. It's not rocket science, okay? For both of us, for men and for women. But we like to make women these like enigmatic mysteries wrapped in another plots within plots. You're not hard to figure out. And I think women hate it when you want to know why women hate the red pill so much is because we're pretty accurate in figuring it out. Right. And everything in this book is true and you shouldn't know any of it. You out of the pool. So anyways, I wanted to get to some of these things. And the reason why I wanted to bring her up is because it serves as a really good example here for when I do the female delusion calculator. Because what happened, in fact, this is going to, if you're watching, dear, you know who you are. I would suggest you go and do the female delusion calculator and then put in the stats of your husband or put in the stats of your boyfriend or whatever else. And then go and say, and you could be as ruthless as you want to be, but you're going to find out that you're probably with a guy who's probably a pretty rare animal by at least American Census Bureau and CDC. That's all the criteria is from those two sources, right? From the Center for Disease Control, right? And the Census Bureau. That's all it is. And by the way, the CDC data is just for obesity and being overweight, more or less. So, and the reason why they do that is because women don't want fat guys, more or less. And that's how it works. So what happens is, and I've done this for myself, put myself in, I am a 56-year-old white male. I'm 5'11". Thank you very much. I make X amount of money. I make over $500,000 a year. So we'll put that in there. And what else was in there? Oh, and I'm white. So I put that on there as well. And so you throw that in there and you go, okay, well, if I was single, I would be a pretty rare animal. Well, actually, you can put that in too. They're married or not married. Yeah. So they put that in there. And what happens when women do that with the men that they're with, they suddenly have this new appreciation for like, holy shit, maybe this guy actually isn't so fucking bad after all. Oh, he also by the way, the delusion calculator doesn't take into account religion. It doesn't take into account political stripe. It doesn't take into account whether the guy is like a good dude or a good father, or is generous, is kind, is a kick-ass, martial artist, is like, there's no, like all these other little particulars that women like this, what Royce always called the 436 bullet point checklist. None of that's on there. It's just like basic information. And even with that, women are at least forced into a position of actually having to, at least in some way, understand, if not appreciate, the guy that they happen to be with. So when you put it in terms of the odds of you finding this guy or getting with this guy are 0.0147%, then suddenly things change a little bit. But I wish I could say that was the case. It's not the case, because that guy is fucking boring. That guy who happens to be 0.0174% of the population, she smelled his farts. She knows what he likes to eat for fucking Sunday breakfast, right? She knows everything about the guy. There's no mystery left to him. There's no challenge left to the guy. And so all of the things that women should in general be appreciating about that guy, mundane. There's nothing special to him. He's not special. He's just a guy. Maybe he doesn't have the style that you like. He's still a very rare animal by sexual market value statistics. But how are we measuring? What's the metric for sexual market value? Should it be the delusion calculator? There's also, by the way, there's a male delusion calculator for women too, so you can put in women's stats and see how rare they happen to be as well. I mean, if you go and you look at you think the calculator is boring? Really? I don't think the calculator is boring. I think a calculator goes and honestly, I hate to say this because I know Aaron Clary was involved in this, but I think the calculator is a disruptor, especially when it comes to the sexual marketplace right now. The calculator is a disruptor. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so J-Pot says women think it is. Yeah, they do think it's boring because it's numbers, it's stats. You know why? Because there's nothing emotional to it. There's no, is he hot? Is he not? Is he, does he have a symmetrical face? Is he jacked? Is he not jacked? Is like, there's no, all you're getting is just raw data. And as I've said before, you can't give people facts. You can't give them raw data without telling them how to feel about that data. And that's why you're correct. That's why it's boring to women. Oh, I can't believe that. It's boring to them up until the point where they actually go and do that calculator, and then maybe they will appreciate just for a brief moment. Maybe this guy really is something that I should be a little bit more appreciative of. But that moment comes and goes because that doubt, that hypergamous doubt, is always there because that guy can always lose his status. He can always lose his prestige. He can always lose his money. He can always get fat. He can always, be deformed in a horrible car accident or something like that. There's always that. There's always my life that could have been. And that's exactly what she was getting into in her email here is did I pick the right dude? Is he the best I can do? Of course, that's the meme, right? It's like this naked chick that's sitting on the side of the bed, and like she's literally sleeping with Superman. And what's the caption? Is he really the best I can do? And we laugh at it because it's true. You will never fucking please a woman. You will never get real, true appreciation from a woman, and that's why I wrote that chapter in the first book, which, by the way, came from an essay, which, by the way, came from a lot of discussions on the SoSwap forums. So it's been in development for quite some time. So when I see concepts like mate switching hypothesis, I have to ask certain questions. The first question I say is, how are you measuring and how are you gauging sexual market value? How do you think women, because in this case it's all about women, even though they would like you to think it's also about guys, it's not. It's all about women. How is Dr. David Buss's team estimating, measuring, what's the metrics of sexual market value? And from that criteria, then how are women unsatisfied with the partner that they happen to be with, so much so that they're willing to trade the good guy, the good husband, the good dude, for the more exciting dude, or for the guy who is the better dude, meaning like, well, this guy, my husband right now, he's a good father and he's boring as fuck, but he takes care of the house. He always pays the bills. He's a really good dude. He doesn't, but he's boring as fuck, right? Well, how is it like women will trade up to a guy who is of higher status, higher prestige, whatever? Because that's pretty much what mate switching strategy is proposing. It's not about fucking the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun. It's about finding another higher powered, more prestigious, more socially, social proof, more pre-selected dude than the husband that they happen to be with. And honestly, I think it was a mistake. And it's, well, as I said before, mate switching hypothesis is cope. It's a kinder, more gentler way of trying to re-explain what dual mating strategy has already explained. The difference between, I'm just in a nutshell, and this is part of my essay that everybody can read on Substack. The basis of the entire article is this: is that dual mating strategy is more comprehensive. It's a more complete theory because it accounts for alpha fucks. Mate switching hypothesis only accounts for beta bucks. It only accounts for long-term security. It only accounts for the side of hypergamy that is interested in provisioning, protection, and parental investment. Security, long-term security. I want to get with a guy who's richer than my husband. I want to get with a guy who has a better job, has more status, has more prestige, has more social proof, has more pre-selection than the poor schlub that I married. And you know what? Once I move up and I fall in love with this guy, then I'm looking for the next one. And that comes back to appreciation. Okay. I understand the frustration that black pill doomers have with women. I will say, especially after writing, sort of going through, and by the way, it took me probably a good week to write this essay. This essay on Substack about mate switching hypothesis is a crafted, well-crafted, well-researched essay. In fact, I pat myself on the back a little bit. Honestly, I think it's one of my better articles and my better essays. I have half a mind to put it up on my old blog and just leave it there for free, which I might, because I want more people to be able to read it than just the people who are my paid people on Substack. But for right now, it's a paid thing. And again, as I said, I don't charge that much per week if you want a membership. But afterwards, after writing this, I begin to understand why black pill doomers give up, because it's not about a lack of faith in themselves or confidence in themselves or the fact that they would ever be able to improve themselves and become something more than they are. I still think they ought to do that. Don't get me wrong, but I understand the mentality, because when we see something like mate switching hypothesis, all it does is reinforce this juice ain't worth the squeeze. All it does is, why bother? Why should I even bother doing this? Because I will never be appreciated. And even when I get to a point where I am the best version of myself, there's always a dude who's better than me that she's going to trade up to. And all mate switching hypothesis does is reinforce that fucking narrative. So if David Buss's or whoever's, his team, or all these gatekeepers of fucking evolutionary psychology, if your point is to sort of say it's not as bad as it seems, then you need to fucking like disabuse yourself of fucking the mate switching hypothesis right now, because that's all it does is reinforce that. There is no fucking hope whatsoever in that hypothesis. The great thing though is that in dual mating strategy, there is. So dual mating strategy also posits that it's not just about the beta buck side of hypergamy. It's also the alpha fuck side of hypergamy. So there's, as I said before, we don't need mate switching strategy. It's cope. It's a way to soft sell something that the women in contemporary modern psychology are going to be more comfortable with than having to deal with. Yeah, women want to fuck hot guys too.